This goes over how to use Photopea to separate a foreground object from the background. I'm going to drag in an image. Here, to create a mask, I'm going to select this background layer and drag it to the new layer icon. I'm going to then select the background layer and I'm going to turn down its fill. The reason to do this is as you brush away the foreground, you might want to peek at what the image is underneath as you create the mask. To make this a mask layer, first I'm going to name it just FG for foreground. With this layer selected, I'll press the mask icon. And now when you paint with black, that knocks this foreground out. And when you paint with white, it restores the foreground. Selecting my foreground color, making sure that I have black selected, and I'll hit OK. Picking up a brush, I'll right click on the canvas or control click and increase the brush size. And now we're ready to start erasing the background. I'm using a big brush just to get the major areas. Don't worry if you accidentally cut away at the elbow. We can restore that by paying back the positive space. So going around as quick as possible because it's masking, yet trying to still maintain some accuracy with the broad brush. Next, we're going to switch brush sizes for the smaller regions. Zooming in. And you can zoom in using a magnifying glass. I used a wheelie mouse to zoom in. I'll right click and make the brush smaller for this finer detail. And there's a preview of the brush size. The more accurate you are at this step, the less correction you're going to be doing a little later on. But within 10 solid minutes, you should be able to carve out the mask for this object. You can always switch brush while we're here, make it even smaller. By having a transparent background, with its opacity turned down, it makes it a little easier to see what regions should be carved away with this masking. Maybe with the thinner brush, you'll go in and sculpt around the perimeter. You can use the paint bucket to fill in this bigger region. Depends. If you're just in a brush mood and you just want to go back and forth with the brush, that's okay. You could also select the paint bucket, and for a bigger region like this, just click and dump in. At the edge of your filled in region and your stroke line, there might be an alias point, and this is where having a slightly bigger brush just to stroke that path is handy, just to get rid of that extra line that was created with aliasing between the two paint bucket and the brush stroke. All right, so things like this that I want to repair. And so to toggle between foreground and background color, use the X key. That makes white the foreground color and black the background color. Pressing X again switches between black being the foreground color and white being the background color. So with white as the brush ink, you could then restore and then hit X to remove if you accidentally restored a little too much. With these two inks set up, it makes this process go pretty quick. So you could stroke, removing by accident, pressing X to switch colors and restoring that area. Switching back to removing. And then just carving away at the pixels you don't want to be there anymore. And then you continue using this technique. We're almost there to restore the elbow, remove this area, and restore the hat. When you're done, you'll have this mask right here. If I turn off the background layer, you can see that it's been alphaed out. If you're interested if there's any stray pixels that you're missing, create yet another new layer. Put that behind all the other layers by clicking and dragging it down. And I'll just call it my solid layer. And pick some extreme color, like red, using the paint bucket. Fill in the background, and then you could see any stray pixels or things that don't look unnatural, and now you'll go back and correct that. To correct, make sure you select the mask layer. So you click on this layer, but make sure you're actually on the mask, which is here, and you know you're on the mask because it's highlighted with this marquee around it. Then make sure you select the foreground marquee again, and begin correcting. Now your foreground, make sure you're still holding black as the ink. Because anything else will either restore the layer or kind of make an opacity of that layer. So black and white for painting out the mask. And you can use gray on softer areas like hair. This person had a lot of unshaven areas, which you might use a gray brush to restore some of that. So I'm going to turn off this background solid layer. I'm going to turn off my background image. Now that I have this character masked out, I'm going to export it as a PNG file. File, export as, and I'll select PNG. And I'll click on Save. And that downloads the PNG to your computer.